Alrighty, welcome to the first of the Another Day in Paradise news podcast. This is the show to where I just started it and do not have a flow yet, so we'll see how it proceeds. But the plan is to cover news topics of the day, depending on the situation and my availability. Some of them are just going to be me ranting in the car like you're seeing right now. Some of them are going to be me sitting down and we go over news clips, read articles, different sorts of videos on the subject, and try to actually have a discourse and dialogue about the topics, look into the details, look into some of the biases, and see how it goes from there. But for today, March 1st, 2025, the pressing news of the day is the absolute travesty that happened in the White House yesterday. If you are not familiar, President Zelensky of Ukraine was, in quotations, invited to the White House to meet with Trump and Vance to discuss their continued partnership for, weapons supplying or other aid to Ukraine. And it was unambiguously the single most embarrassing piece of international relations the United States has levied in potentially a century. Absolute travesty. Sure, there were some international relation decisions that are arguably worse than what occurred. Like the Iraq War was a complete shit show. But generally speaking, due to Americans' hegemonic power abroad, a lot of nations just kind of bent the knee and went along with America's nonsense with the Iraq War and other related wars on terror. This situation yesterday with Zelensky is different. It is unprecedented. The thing that a lot of people don't get about international relations is there are different kinds of power that countries can exert on the international stage, as well as corporations or other entities. The first kind of power is like direct or hard power. We're talking sheer military might. The war in Iraq, that's a hard power kind of situation, bombing the ever-living fuck out of somebody. But just as important, and arguably more important, is the idea of soft power. Soft power are those influences due to association or positive relationships in the past, trade deals, economic deals, research partnerships. All of these different organizations internationally that the United States has been a major factor in, has contributed in, and in many circumstances a founding member, have way more influence than the direct threat of the United States just bombing you. One of those biggest, best examples I like to tell people is the idea of American food. American food is some of the strongest soft power on Earth. There are entire countries on Earth where their term for a fountain soda or carbonated soda beverage is not called soda. It's not called pop. It's called Coke, Coca-Cola, to where entire cultures' very perception of an entire genre of beverage is defined based on American products, Coca-Cola. It is a sheer hegemonic force that is pervasive and will go everywhere. And that sort of soft power, that American influence spreading, has a lot of sway where it can change the impressions of people all around the world for what kind of people Americans are and what kind of governance to expect from the American state. And the kind of shit that they're expecting under the new Trump administration is a travesty. The way that Trump treated Zelensky is so obvious for you hate to say it, but it's like, I've been around in politics for many years for, kind of lurking in the background. A lot of the ways people are speaking about this current situation reminds me a lot of the Russiagate stuff. And if you followed Russiagate back in the day, a lot of that was of dubious authenticity. Some of the criticisms were very much legitimate. Some of them were very much overblown. I see no way in which this current bout with Zelensky does anything other than benefit the Russian Empire. Yeah, I'm calling them the Russian Empire. You guys aren't a democracy. Yeah, Federation, my ass. All of the other constituent states are subservient to the Russian people under the Russian Emperor Putin. And Trump has bent the knee to the Russian Emperor. I don't know how else you could view this. it has done so much damage to our reputation abroad to where none of our historical allies are taking us seriously. There are all sorts of elections happening all throughout Europe right now, and they are all kind of one of the biggest topics in their referendums is how they're going to deal with the United States under Trump. Germany just had a pretty big election that was getting eerily close to them supporting the neo-Nazi party, and instead went for the reactionary conservative party. And one of the defining factors of this new administration in Germany is the idea of having to stop relying on the United States. So much of NATO agreements have been, expecting the United States to carry a lot of the weight, because the US has carried a lot of the weight. Not all of it, no, but enough for it to have an impact on the way that other countries work their military spending, where many of them don't feel like it's necessary to put all of this money into their own military because they believe that the United States has their back. And with a United States president backing the historical enemy of NATO, why would they rely on the US? Why would they do that? So now Germany's talking about rearming. They're talking about having to increase their funding to the military. All of the European Union is looking towards that. A lot of America's historical allies in Oceania are turning towards China, because while China may be an authoritarian hellhole, China is at least pretty consistent. There's a consistency to their operations that a lot of countries are willing to prefer over dealing with all of the nonsense happening in the United States because Trump and his cult. Shit's getting bad. It's getting very bad. Our reputation abroad is so awful right now. One of those countries I like to study as like a comparison example is Canada, because Canada is very much like a sister state to the United States. Yeah, both of us like to pretend like we're not very similar, but we are very similar culturally. There are some key distinctions and key differences that make the Canadian people and the American people unique. But a lot of the kind of media we watch, a lot of the kind of stuff that we're interested in shares commonalities that are not seen outside of North America. And so studying Canadian politics is kind of that good way to see how it can be done somewhat differently while still sharing a lot of these commonalities. And Canadian politics is going through a pretty big upheaval lately, where the Liberal Party under Trudeau has been lambasted for being the party of stagnation and depression-style decline. And so it was predicted that the Liberals were going to lose dramatically in the upcoming election to the Conservative Party, the Conservatives in Canada aren't necessarily like Trump adjacent. They're kind of their own thing, but they still have been using a lot of the same language that Trump and the MAGA types will use in the United States that can be very off-putting to pretty much anybody. And so since Trump took office, the Liberals have been hitting the Conservative Party in Canada hard for any perceived association with Trump and American conservatism, and it is costing them dearly. There is a chance that Donald Trump's election may secure the Liberals more time in Canada, and that is baffling to anybody who's been following Canadian politics over the last couple of years. That complete heel turn is astonishing. The U.S. is cooked. All of its goodwill is being completely lost for no obvious reason other than to just Trump selling the country to the highest bidder. Be it Russia, be it whatever oligarchs he wants to partner with, be it the real president, Elon Musk, be it... Just the other day, he was offering like several $1 million, like cut through the line Disney Fast Pass style visas and citizenship options to rich people. He's just selling the country. We ceased being a democracy the moment he got his second term. We are now a kleptocracy. And if you don't have your bag, and if you don't get your bag soon, you're shit out of luck, because they're coming for everything you own. And the fact that the United States is being left out to dry by its allies because of how poor his behavior is very alarming. Because when there is an inevitable constitutional crisis of unfixable scale, when there is an inevitable secession problem. I give the country a few more years before there are states fully seceding. Those states are going to have to start making deals with international allies pretty fucking fast. The U.S. is going to have to do what it did in its Revolutionary War, where we're going to have to partner with like a fucking France or something, where each of these individual states will have to pick somebody, because the United States of America is officially dead. We are currently just riding in the puppeted corpse of what was a nation that was very powerful and respected. Whether or not it earned that respect is obviously to be debated. I have many qualms with this country, but this country ultimately has a lot of potential, a lot of ways that it could get better, and it is not getting better, and I don't foresee it getting better anytime soon. So it'll be fascinating to see how things proceed, but the way that Trump treated Zelensky, the way that he belittled him, the way that he was like demanding for Zelensky to kind of like kowtow and prostrate like you would to the like you would to like a Chinese emperor. We're cooked. We're completely cooked. I might record another segment later today, but assuming I don't, this will be the first episode. Hopefully you like my car ramblings, and we'll tune back in again. See you next time.